What if the man you called too slow turned out to be the CEO of the entire company? What if a single rude remark overheard at a coffee counter sparked a chain reaction that exposed hidden truths and changed everything? This isn't just a story about coffee. It's a story about respect, redemption, and a boss who went undercover and discovered more than he ever expected. Stay tuned, because what happens next, no one saw coming. At 6, Nero Treya, in me one for insurance. Ethan Wells tightened the apron around his waist, staring at his reflection in the stainless steel panel of the espresso machine. No tailored suits today. No cufflinks or Rolex. Just jeans, a black barista shirt, and a name tag that simply read, Ethan. No one would have guessed he was the man who built Wells Brew from a single coffee cart into a 50-store empire stretching across California. Today, he wasn't the CEO. He was just a guy behind the counter. And that was exactly how he wanted it. Outside the glass storefront, dawn cracked over Willowbrook Mall, washing the parking lot in a pale orange glow. Inside, the familiar hum of grinders and the hiss of milk steamers filled the air. A line had already begun to form, commuters in business casual, students in hoodies, a mother juggling a stroller. Ethan wiped down the counter, scanning the cafe like a silent sentinel. He wasn't here to serve coffee. He was here to listen, to see, to uncover the things that never made it into reports or filtered through smiling managers. And already, something felt off. Yup, new guy. A barista called from the pastry case, a 20-something named Maya with purple streaks in her hair. Watch out for table 7. That kid's been camping there for 2 hours and hasn't ordered Jack. Ethan followed her glance. A teenage girl sat alone near the window, sketchbook open, earbuds in, chin propped on her hand. Her curly hair framed her face like a halo, but her eyes, they looked tired. Waiting, watching the door. He noted it. Everything meant something. Got it, Ethan replied, his voice even controlled. As he took another customer's order, the door chimed. 3 teenage boys swaggered in designer sneakers, varsity jackets. Too loud laughter. One of them, taller, cockier than the others, immediately locked eyes with the girl by the window. Still playing pretend? Huh, the boy sneered, walking over to her. His name was Kyle. Ethan overheard one of the other boys call him that. Not today. Kyle, the girl murmured without looking up. Kyle smirked, snatching her sketchbook off the table and flipping through it. Cute drawings. You sketching that dad of yours who never shows up, or are you still dreaming he'll come back? The girl's jaw clenched. Give it back. Kyle held it just out of reach, laughing. Betty's too busy drinking to remember you exist. From behind the counter, Ethan felt a cold ripple spread through him. His fingers curled around the portafilter handle, tightening. He'd seen bullies before, heard cruel jokes in every shade. But something about this cut deeper. Orders up, Maya called. Kyle swaggered to the counter, flashing a platinum card. He handed it to Ethan without eye contact, scrolling his phone. Make it fast. Don't screw it up, old man. Ethan swiped the card slowly. The arrogance, the entitlement, it was familiar. Too familiar. As he handed Kyle the iced macchiato, Kyle muttered just loud enough for Ethan to hear. Must be sad, making minimum wage slinging coffee for rich guys like me while we own the world. Ethan froze. For a split second, he stared at the boy, this walking cocktail of ego and ignorance, and wondered, does he know? Could he possibly know? Of course not. Ethan forced a polite smile. Enjoy it. Kyle sauntered back to his friends, feet kicked up on an empty chair, tossing the sketchbook onto the floor. The girl bent to pick it up, fingers brushing the worn cover like it was the last piece of something fragile. Ethan watched, heart pounding, mind whirring. He hadn't come undercover today, expecting this. But now he couldn't look away. And deep down, a storm was already starting to brew. By 7, 45 inmen. Siri to Wednesday. The cafe was packed. Orders flying. Receipts printing. Shots pulling nonstop. Ethan moved efficiently behind the counter, blending in like just another cog in the machine. But inside, his mind raced. He couldn't stop replaying the scene at table 7. The girl's quiet defiance. Kyle's cruel taunts. And the deeper question that gnawed at him. Why was she waiting for whom? He wiped down a spill at the pickup station, eyes flicking toward the girl again. Still there. Still waiting. Still tracing lines into her sketchbook with a pencil worn down to the nub. New guy. Maya's voice snapped him back. We're out of oat milk. Can you grab more from the back? On it. Ethan disappeared into the stockroom, pulling the heavy door shut behind him. Shelves lined with syrups, bags of beans, and stacks of disposable cups. He exhaled, letting the hum of the refrigerator drown the chaos outside. This store felt different. Reports had flagged declining customer satisfaction, higher turnover, rumors of conflicts among staff. But Ethan hadn't expected this undercurrent of tension. Like a wound no one wanted to admit. He grabbed 2 cartons, headed back, and paused just in time to catch Kyle snapping a selfie in front of the Wells Brew logo wall, his friends laughing behind him. Tag me, Kyle demanded. One friend snorted. Bro, no offense, but why do you hang out here so much? Ain't your dad, like, loaded? Kyle's smirk twisted. Yeah. He's loaded. Owns half the mall. But he doesn't give a damn. Thinks I'm a screw-up. The boy's voice carried just loud enough for Ethan to catch. Kyle shoved his phone in his pocket. So yeah, I hang out here. Beats being at home pretending we're a family. Ethan's chest tightened. He stepped back into the barista line, sliding the oat milk into place. But his thoughts spiraled. Kyle, son of a mall executive, privileged yet hollow, bitter, pitched your man. Loss. But then, why target the girl? What history lay buried beneath their exchanges? At Woody and Juana de Bertuna, 15, the girl finally stood, packed her sketchbook slowly, as if reluctant to leave. She adjusted the straps on her worn backpack, hesitation flickering in her eyes. Kyle whistled from across the room. Tell Daddy I said hi. Oh, wait, never mind. The girl flinched almost imperceptibly, then walked out the door without a word. Ethan's fist clenched around the towel in his hand. Who's she? Ethan asked Maya casually, loading dishes into the sanitizer. Maya shrugged. Her, that's Ariana. She comes in almost every morning, sits for hours. Super quiet. I think her dad works nights or something. Does she always leave like that? Maya frowned, following his gaze. Yeah, waits. Looks at the entrance like she's hoping someone will show up. But they never do. A weight settled in Ethan's chest. What about Kyle? Ethan pressed. Maya rolled her eyes. Khyar. Entitled jerk. His dad's on the mall's board of directors. Acts like he owns the place. Always hassling people. A customer waved at Maya. She hurried off, leaving Ethan standing alone, piecing together fragments. Ariana. Owen and Amamanta. Waiting. Hoping. Kyle. Angry. Spiteful. And Ethan, caught somewhere in the middle, feeling both fury and a strange sense of responsibility. Why was Ariana's loneliness bothering him so much? Why did Kyle's cruelty feel so personal? He didn't come undercover to play hero, but the more he watched, the harder it became to stay neutral. At 8:30, Ethan took his break, sipping a plain black coffee by the employee lockers. His phone buzzed a text from his assistant. CEO meeting moved to noon. Everything okay at Willowbrook? He stared at the message. No? No. Everything was not okay. Outside, Kyle leaned against a pillar, texting furiously. Across the street, Ariana waited at the bus stop, head bowed. And Ethan knew, with a bone-deep certainty, that this morning wasn't over. Whatever had started between those two, it wasn't done. And neither was he. He threw his cup away, straightened his apron, and stepped back onto the floor. Something told him. Today, he wasn't just brewing coffee. He was about to stir up the truth. The mid-morning rush had subsided, but tension still simmered beneath the quiet hum of espresso machines. Ethan wiped down the pastry case, eyes drifting toward the front windows. Ariana was still at the bus stop. 15 minutes now. Still waiting. Still looking toward the road as if willing someone to appear. Kyle had disappeared after his friends left, but something told Ethan he hadn't gone far. Hey, new guy, Maya called from the register. Table 9 didn't get their muffin. Can you take it? Sure. Ethan grabbed the plate, weaving through tables, and placing it in front of a woman buried in her laptop. As he turned back, he caught a flicker of movement outside. Kyle, standing next to Ariana, arms crossed. Even from inside, Ethan could see the tight set of the boy's jaw, the defensive tilt of his body. Ariana kept her gaze lowered. Not arguing, not pushing back, just enduring. Ethan felt a cold knot twist in his gut. Something wasn't right. He pulled out his phone, pretending to check a message as he watched through the glass. Kyle leaned in, said something sharp. Ariana flinched, hugged her sketchbook closer. Then Kyle's voice carried just enough to reach Ethan as the door swung open briefly behind a leaving customer. Just like your dad, always waiting, always hoping. Pathetic. Ethan's pulse spiked. Kyle stepped back, smirking, shoving his hands in his jacket pockets. Ariana stayed frozen, staring at the sidewalk. Ethan didn't realize he was moving until Maya called after him. New guy, where are you going? But he was already out the door. Kyle Ethan's voice snapped through the morning air, sharper than he intended. Kyle turned, startled. What? Oh, it's you. What? You stalking me now? Coffee boy. Ethan walked up slowly, forcing calm into his voice. Leave her alone. Kyle scoffed. Whatever. It's none of your business. It is now. Ethan's tone dropped lower. You've had your fun. It stops here. Kyle's smirk wavered. Ariana looked up for the first time, surprised. Kyle shook his head. You don't know what you're talking about. Man, I know enough, Ethan replied evenly. Kyle stepped closer, lowering his voice. Look, I don't owe you an explanation. This isn't about her. Ethan's brow furrowed. Then what's it about? Kyle's lips twisted bitterly. Her dad. That landed like a brick. Ariana's expression shuddered instantly. Kyle sneered. Yes, it will win. One. Bet she didn't tell you. Her dad's the one who... Enough. Ariana's voice was quiet but firm, cutting Kyle off mid-sentence. Kyle blinked, startled. For a second, the bravado slipped. Ariana turned to Ethan. It's okay. Please. Just let it go. But Ethan couldn't shake the gnawing sense that the real story was bigger than a teenage spat. Hearing. Ethan's voice was softer now. What happened with her dad? Kyle's jaw tightened. Ask him yourself. Oh, wait, you can't. Ariana's hands clenched around her sketchbook. Kyle snorted. Didn't think so. He turned on his heel and strode away, disappearing into the parking lot. Silence stretched between Ethan and Ariana. I'm sorry, Ethan said gently. You don't have to explain anything. Ariana swallowed hard. It's not your fault. You shouldn't have to deal with this alone, Ethan pressed. Ariana hesitated, then offered the smallest, saddest smile. I've been dealing with it alone for a long time. She hugged the sketchbook tighter. The bus isn't coming. Not today. I just hoped maybe he'd show up. Ethan's chest ached. Your dad, he asked softly. Ariana nodded. Do you want to ride somewhere? Ethan offered. She shook her head quickly. Oh, no. I'll be fine. But Ethan knew that wasn't true. She started walking toward the corner. Alone. Ethan stood rooted on the sidewalk, watching her go. And inside, A decision solidified. Tomorrow. He wasn't coming back as an undercover barista. Tomorrow. He was coming back as Ethan Wells, CEO of Wells Brew, and he was going to find out exactly what this cafe and this community had been hiding. The next morning, Ethan stood in front of the mirror in his hotel room, adjusting his tie. Gone were the khakis and branded apron of the undercover barista. Today, he wore a tailored navy suit, subtle but powerful, the kind of suit that made people sit up straighter when you walked in. He wasn't just Ethan, the guy brewing lattes. He was Ethan Wells, founder for the Naked Wanasur, owner on a Mopinatishward Mansion, CEO. And today, he wasn't asking for answers politely. He was demanding them. By 8 I'm my chunum, Cerny Lurari Erbert Sharptidine. He parked his silver Audi 2 blocks from the cafe. Didn't want to draw attention just yet. From across the street, he watched as employees unlocked the doors, flipped the open sign, and set out patio chairs. Maya Manuminiment Mirror. Danny. Kyle. Keel. The boy was already behind the register, scrolling on his phone with that same cocky half smile. Ethan's jaw clenched. He waited until the early rush trickled down, then walked across the street. The bell chimed as he pushed open the door. Kyle barely glanced up. We're out of cold brew, and we don't do oat milk until after 10. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Maya looked up from the pastry case and froze. Mr. Wells, she blurted. Kyle's head snapped up. Ethan smiled faintly. Good morning, Maya. Kyle's face drained of color. Where? You're? That's right. Ethan stepped forward. I own this cafe. The entire room seemed to hold its breath. Danny poked his head out from the back. Wait, Denma. You're the boss. Ethan nodded calmly. I've been here all week, working alongside you. Kyle swallowed hard. You were undercover. Undercover boss? Yes. Ethan's tone sharpened. And I've seen more than I expected. He let that sink in for a beat. I'd like to speak with the team. All of you. Now let's run to Simari. They gathered hesitantly around a table. Maya wrung her hands nervously. Danny looked guilty. Kyle tried to look bored, but his foot tapped under the table. I came here thinking I'd see a smoothly run shop, Ethan began. Instead, I saw, he paused, late deliveries, wasted inventory. Orders were written wrong on purpose to charge customers more. And worst of all, his gaze locked on Kyle. A culture of bullying, disrespect. Employees mistreat each other and customers. Kyle's mouth opened. That's not... Stop. Ethan's voice cut through. I heard what you said to Ariana yesterday. I heard what you said about her father. Maya bit her lip. Danny looked down at the floor. Kyle crossed his arms. I didn't mean it like that. You called her pathetic, Ethan reminded him coldly. In front of customers. In front of your coworkers. Kyle shifted uncomfortably. Ethan's gaze swept the group. Do you think that's acceptable here? No one spoke. Ethan leaned forward slightly. Here's the truth. I started Wells Brew because I wanted every cafe to feel like a safe place. A community hub. Not just a business. That's been the heart of our brand from day one. He straightened. But this store, this isn't Wells Brew. Kyle's face darkened. Look, it's not my fault Don't. Ethan held up a hand. Not another excuse. Kyle slumped back. Maya cleared her throat nervously. Mr. Wells, we didn't know about Ariana's situation. We just thought she was a quiet kid who hung around. She's more than that, Ethan said quietly. She's a kid who's been through hell. He pulled out his phone, scrolled, then held up a photo. It was Ariana, standing next to a man in a military uniform, grinning proudly. My brother, Ethan explained. Sergeant Marcus Walker. Her father, the entire table went still. Maya gasped softly. Danny's eyes widened. Kyle's face drained completely. Wait. She's your niece. Abdursa Rewarkan Binson Mamer. Ethan nodded slowly. And last I checked, respecting a veteran's family should be the bare minimum. Kyle's mouth opened, then closed. I didn't know, he whispered. Ethan's voice turned steely. But you knew enough to mock her for waiting. You knew enough to twist the knife. The room felt heavy. I didn't come here to fire anyone, Ethan said after a long silence. But I won't tolerate this. Not in my cafe. Not in my company. He exhaled. I need to decide what happens next. He turned toward the window, watching Ariana step off a bus across the street, still clutching her sketchbook, still alone. And as Ethan watched, he realized this wasn't just about fixing a store. It was about fixing a broken promise. Ethan pushed open the cafe door and stepped outside. Ariana stood at the curb, staring down at her sketchbook as if the world around her didn't exist. Hey, kiddo, he called softly. She looked up, startled at first. Then her expression shifted when she realized who it was. Uncle Ethan. He smiled, though it didn't quite reach his eyes. You got a minute? She nodded, hugging the sketchbook tighter. He led her to a bench just outside the cafe. Inside, Kyle, Maya, and Danny watched through the window, silent. Ethan sat down beside her. You doing okay? Ariana hesitated, then shrugged. Yeah, so one. I guess. That drawing from yesterday, Ethan said gently. Can I see it? She hesitated again, then slowly opened the sketchbook. The page was smudged with pencil marks, but the lines were clear. It was the cafe captured perfectly, from the angle she always sat. But in the drawing, she'd added something. A man in uniform, sitting at one of the tables. Ethan's throat tightened. That's your dad, goes Maka and Mar Dib. Ariana nodded. He promised he'd take me here when he came back. Said we'd try every pastry on the menu. She swallowed hard, but he didn't make it back. Ethan's chest ached. Marcus, his big brother, a courier Basarashuran, gone 3 months ago in an ambush overseas. He cleared his throat. Ariana, you know he'd be proud of you. Right. She gave a small, sad smile. I hope so. Ethan tapped the sketch gently. You've been coming here every day. Waiting? I just wanted to be close to where we planned to go, she whispered. He nodded slowly. And the people inside, did they ever talk to you? Her smile faded. Sometimes when on, but mostly I just stayed out of the way. Ethan's jaw clenched. They treated you like you didn't belong. Ariana looked down. I phoned them. I don't blame them. I'm just some weird kid who sits around drawing. No, Ethan said firmly. Your family. This cafe was built for people like you. He looked back through the window. Kyle was still standing there, staring. You know, Ethan continued. Your dad and I, we started working in coffee shops together when we were barely older than you. Ariana's eyes widened. Really? Yeah. Ethan chuckled softly. Marcus wasn't great with the machines, but he was amazing with people. Customers loved him, always made them feel seen. He paused. That's why I started Wells Brew, he said quietly. Not for fancy drinks or Instagram walls. For connection. Ariana's voice was barely a whisper. Doesn't feel like that inside. Ethan followed her gaze. Not lately. But we're gonna change that. He stood, offering his hand. Come inside with me. She hesitated. He smiled. Trust me. Slowly, Ariana took his hand. When they walked through the door together, the cafe fell silent. Kyle's eyes widened. I didn't know. She's my niece, Ethan said evenly. And even if she weren't, she deserves respect. Kyle swallowed hard. I'm sorry. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Say it to her. Kyle looked at Ariana. I'm sorry, Ariana. I shouldn't have said what I said. I didn't know about your dad. Ariana's lips pressed together. You didn't have to know. You just had to be kind. Kyle's face flushed. Maya stepped forward. Ariana, I'm sorry. Too. We should have invited you in sooner. Danny nodded beside her. Yeah, we all should have. Ethan watched as Ariana gave a shy nod. He cleared his throat. Starting today, this cafe is going back to what it was meant to be. He turned to Kyle. But you're going to have to earn back trust. Kyle looked down. I understand. Ethan's gaze softened slightly. Everyone deserves a second chance. But no third. He looked at Ariana. And you, I think we need a new sign. She tilted her head. He grinned. Ariana's table. Drinking and reserved. Every day, her eyes lit up. Really? Really? He ruffled her hair. Behind them, Maya wiped away a tear. Danny smiled quietly. And Kyle, well, even he couldn't help but smile. Sheepish but sincere. As Ethan looked around, he realized, sometimes you don't fix a cafe by changing the menu. You fix it by changing its heart. The next morning, Ethan arrived at Wells Brew an hour before opening. The sun was barely rising, casting golden light over the glass windows. Ariana sat at her table, sketchbook open, a soft smile on her face. Kyle, Maya, and Danny stood behind the counter, unusually quiet. Ethan stepped behind the bar. Morning. Morning, boss. Maya greeted cautiously. Kyle rubbed the back of his neck. Thanks for not firing me. Ethan glanced at him. Not yet. Kyle froze. Ethan smirked. But you're going to earn that job every day from now on. Kyle nodded quickly. Understood. Ethan's eyes scanned the shop. All right. Today we're doing things differently. He walked over to the chalkboard menu, grabbed an eraser, and wiped it clean. Boss Danny asked nervously. The menu, we're keeping the drinks, Ethan assured. But we're adding something. He picked up a piece of chalk and, in bold letters, wrote across the top. Coffee with a story. Underneath, he listed. The Veteran's Latte inspired by Marcus Wells. Ariana's Hot Chocolate. The Artist's Brew. The Neighbor's Cup. Danny read aloud. Every drink has a name. Every drink has a story, Ethan corrected. And customers get to hear it when they order. Maya tilted her head. What? Because this place isn't just about coffee, Ethan explained. It's about connection. We stopped telling stories. We stopped listening. And we forgot what made this cafe special. He gestured toward Ariana. Starting today, we invite everyone in. No matter how small they feel, every table's a welcome table. Ariana beamed. Kyle looked skeptical. Boss, won't people think that's cheesy? Some might, Ethan admitted. But the ones who stay, those are the customers worth keeping. He clapped his hands. All right, let's open up. As the first customers trickled in, Maya greeted them with a genuine smile. Welcome to Wells Brew. Have you heard about our new menu? An elderly woman tilted her head curiously. No, T.I. Tell me. Maya leaned in, excitement in her voice. Every drink has a story. Want to hear Ariana's? The woman glanced at Ariana, sketching quietly at her table. Of course. Maya recounted how Ariana came to the cafe every day, how she drew the world around her, and how the hot chocolate had become her ritual. The woman's eyes softened. I'll have Ariana's hot chocolate. Then, as Maya prepared the drink, Ethan watched with pride. Customer after customer came in, some intrigued, some skeptical, but each one eventually smiling as they listened to the stories behind the brews. Kyle approached Ethan behind the bar. Boss, I gotta admit, I didn't think people would care. They always cared, Ethan replied. We just stopped giving them a reason to show it. Kyle was quiet for a moment. Yesterday, I didn't just fail Ariana. I failed you. Ethan met his gaze. You failed yourself. Kyle, but you showed up today. That counts. Kyle swallowed. I won't let you down again. Ethan nodded once. Then let's brew something better. As the morning rush continued, something shifted in the atmosphere. Laughter flowed between tables. Strangers introduced themselves. Sketches from Ariana's notebook were displayed on the community board, sparking conversations. Even Kyle found himself leaning down to listen to a customer's story, his usual arrogance replaced with curiosity. Around noon, Ethan stepped outside to breathe in the cool air. Ariana joined him, holding her hot chocolate. "I like it better now," she said quietly. "Me too," Ethan replied. She sipped thoughtfully. "Uncle Ethan, it was a real warmth in our nonpoints." "Yes, acceptable. Was this what you wanted when you started Wells Brew?" Ethan gazed at the bustling cafe through the window. "No," he said softly. "It's better than I imagined." Ariana leaned against him. "Dad would have liked it." Ethan's chest tightened with emotion. "Yeah," he murmured. "Yeah, he would." And for the first time in years, he felt like Marcus was right there beside him. Inside, Kyle handed a customer their drink with a shy grin. Maya laughed like a child as she drew a smiley face in the foam. Danny tuned the background music just a little louder, creating a perfect hum of warmth. The cafe wasn't just back, it was reborn. And as Ethan looked down at Ariana's latest sketch, a drawing of the cafe, windows glowing, people gathered, a little girl at the heart of it all, he knew. Some stories aren't found on paper. They're brewed, shared, and sipped, one cup at a time. That afternoon, as the cafe bustled with life, Ethan noticed a man sitting quietly in the farthest corner. He wasn't a regular. Middle-aged, dressed in a tailored gray suit, sharp features, briefcase at his feet. He hadn't ordered anything, just sat, watching. Something about him made Ethan uneasy. Kyle followed Ethan's gaze. "You know that guy?" "No," Ethan said slowly. "But he's been there since late morning." Maya approached with a worried frown. "Should I ask if he needs anything?" Ethan shook his head. "I'll handle it." He crossed the room, wiping his hands on a towel. "Good afternoon. Sir, can I get you something?" The man looked up, eyes dark and piercing. "Black coffee. No sugar." Ethan nodded. "Coming right up." But as he walked back to the counter, he noticed something. The man had a small notebook open, filled with scribbled notes. And at the top of the page, in bold letters, "Wells Brew is Permanent Field Evaluation Report." Ethan's heart skipped a beat. He turned to Kyle. "Did you notice what he was writing?" Kyle glanced over, squinting. "Looks like some kind of report." Ethan's stomach sank. Only one group would take notes like that. Corporate auditors. He poured the coffee, mind racing. It wasn't unusual for large businesses to send secret evaluators. But why now and why here? He carried the coffee over, setting it down gently. "Here you go. Sir, I hope everything's to your liking." The man stirred the coffee absent-mindedly, his gaze sweeping the cafe. "It's impressive," the man said. "You've turned things around fast." Ethan sat across from him, keeping his tone light. "We've had to." The man smiled faintly. "You probably want to know who I am." "Wouldn't mind." He reached into his jacket, pulling out a slim ID badge, and slid it across the table. Ethan read aloud. "Nathan Royce, Senior VP of Operations, Wells Brew Corporate." Royce nodded. "I was sent to observe this location." Ethan stiffened. "Observe? For what?" "Potential closure," Royce said bluntly. The words hit like a punch. "Closure," Ethan's voice sharpened. "This is one of our best performing cafes." "Was," Royce corrected. "Last quarter's numbers slipped. Customer retention was down. Reviews flagged service inconsistencies. Headquarters considered shutting this branch and replacing it with a franchise." Ethan's hands curled into fists beneath the table. "So you came to make sure we failed?" "I came to verify if there was anything left worth saving," Royce replied calmly. Ethan's mind reeled. The irony wasn't lost on him. He'd gone undercover to evaluate his team, only to be evaluated himself by someone even higher up. Royce took a slow sip of coffee. "But I have to admit, what I saw today surprised me." Ethan leaned forward. In a good way. Royce's lips twitched. In a very good way. Customers are staying longer. Engaged staff. Community involvement. The new menu concept brilliant. Ethan exhaled shakily. So, you're recommending we stay open? Royce tapped his pen thoughtfully. I'm recommending more than that. Ethan blinked. More? Royce closed his notebook. We've been looking for a new flagship location. A model store to represent the brand's future direction. Something authentic. Human, worded morning. Story-driven, Arshur Dusharan. He gestured around the cafe. You've created it. Ethan stared, disbelief mixing with cautious hope. You're saying this cafe could be the flagship? Royce nodded. If you're willing to scale what you've built here, if you're willing to lead that vision company-wide, Ethan's breath caught. A flagship, a second chance, not just for this cafe, but for the entire company. Before he could respond, Royce added quietly, I'll be back next week with the board. I want them to see this with their own eyes. He stood, gathering his things. Impress them, Ethan. And you won't just save this cafe? You'll redefine Wellsbrew. As Royce exited, Ethan sat frozen for a moment. Then Kyle hurried over. What was that about? Ethan turned, a slow grin spreading across his face. Get ready, he said. We're about to brew something way bigger than we ever imagined. Kyle frowned. Boss, you're scaring me. Ethan laughed, clapping him on the back. No, kid, I'm inspiring you. He looked around the cafe, Ariana sketching by the window. Customers sharing stories. Maya chatting warmly with an elderly couple. A new energy pulsed in the air. A test had come, and they'd passed to Peter and her son. But the real challenge was just beginning. Tuyet voi jai lafan orin mar 1602. Ket thuk kao chuyen voi kao trao kamshuk. Twistfu vemod utro mangoi gontong jebva sitir. Part 8. A brew for the future. The following week came faster than Ethan expected. On the morning of the board's visit, the cafe was spotless. Every chair polished, every table gleaming. The team wore their best uniforms, nerves masked behind practiced smiles. Kyle paced nervously. You really think we're ready? Ethan clasped his shoulder. We're not ready. Kyle, we're real. That's what counts. Kyle gulped. That's comforting, I think. Outside, black SUVs pulled up. Nathan Royce stepped out first, followed by 4 impeccably dressed board members. One woman scribbled notes on a tablet before even crossing the threshold. They look intense, Maya whispered. They're not here for coffee, Ethan murmured. They're here for answers. Royce led them inside. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Wells Brew. Downtown, the store I've been telling you about. The board fanned out, inspecting every corner. One older man sniffed the air. Smells like actual coffee, not a corporate blend. Ethan approached confidently. Everything's locally sourced. We roast small batches weekly. The woman with the tablet raised an eyebrow. Your quarterly report showed declining supplier contracts. Because we switched to direct partnerships with small farms, Ethan explained. It costs more up front, but the long-term loyalty and quality pay off. She typed furiously. Royce gestured to the community board near the entrance, covered in handwritten notes, flyers, and kids' drawings. That's what caught my attention, he told them. Look at that. A younger board member frowned. A cluttered corkboard. No, Royce said firmly. A living wall. This isn't just a cafe. It's a hub. They host open mics, art shows, and charity drives. Every flyer represents a story tied to this place. The woman paused. Not scalable. Ethan stepped closer. It is scalable. You just have to stop thinking like a chain and start thinking like a community. The board exchanged glances. Then, from the corner, a voice interrupted. Excuse me, can I speak to whoever's in charge? A teenage girl stood hesitantly by the counter, backpack slung over one shoulder. Her name tag read Jasmine. Ethan smiled. What's up, Jasmine? I'm, I'm sorry about last week. She bit her lip. I was the one who complained about the old guy making the drinks slow. Kyle nearly dropped a cup. You mean a Nuri Wetermertserum? Jasmine nodded sheepishly. I didn't know he was the owner. The board perked up. Ethan chuckled. Don't worry, Jasmine. I needed to hear that. She looked relieved. Anyway, my art teacher saw my sketches in the window. She offered me a spot in the city youth gallery. I wouldn't have had the guts to submit if you hadn't encouraged me. Ethan blinked. You're kidding. She shook her head, beaming. I just wanted to say, thanks. The board fell silent. Royce turned to them. You were wondering how we measure success. He pointed to Jasmine. There's your metric. The older man stroked his chin thoughtfully. The woman with the tablet finally stopped typing. We've been looking for data points. But what we needed was a story. Royce grinned. And Wells Brew has hundreds of them. Every day. The oldest board member nodded slowly. I approve. Let's greenlight the flagship. The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Ethan felt his chest swell. Mercer were that manner relief. Gratitude, Rowan, on Monsieur. And something deeper. He extended his hand to Royce. Let's brew this right. Royce shook it firmly. Let's change the industry. As the board exited, Royce lingered. You know, I wasn't sure you could pull it off. Ethan smiled. Neither was I. Royce laughed. Best kind of leadership. When the last SUV pulled away, Kyle leaned against the counter, exhaling loudly. Dude, he said, you just turned a cafe into a movement. Ethan surveyed the bustling shop. Customers laughing. A poet reading at the mic. Jasmine is hanging her latest sketch. Nah, Ethan replied quietly. We just remembered what coffee's supposed to do. Kyle grinned, which is bring people together. Ethan raised a cup. To every conversation. Kyle clinked his cup. And every complaint that turns into a compliment. They drank, watching the sunset spill gold across the cafe floor. Sometimes the greatest transformations start with a single cup of coffee and someone willing to listen. If this story warmed your heart, hit that like button. Subscribe for more tales that remind us. No matter how big a company gets, it's the small moments that matter most. Where are you watching from? Drop us a comment below. We'd love to know your story. In a world full of noise, sometimes the quietest conversations carry the most weight. If this story made you think twice about judging someone too quickly, smash that like button, subscribe for more powerful tales, and tell us in the comments. What would you have done if you were in his shoes? Until next time, stay kind, stay curious, and stay brewing.